Well, hello, Rotarians out there and fellow guests. Welcome to our Rotary Club of San Jose's Wednesday meeting. That was the Wapango, which is the last time you'll be hearing that particular sound of music because next month we'll be having some marimbas. So welcome to all of our August birthday babies. First, we've got, let's see, Robert Fox. He joined Rotary in 1965. He owned Markovitz and Fox, one of the owners, a metals recycling business, sold the business, developed the property into residential and commercial uses, and he's at home enjoying his retirement. Next is Linda Vaughn. She's with the South Bay Regional Public Safety Training Group. She joined the club in 2017. What they do is they train first responders of police, fire, and EMT for the smaller cities in the area. San Jose does its own training. So that's Linda. Happy birthday to her. And finally, Linda Ellis. Linda Ellis is with Bozuto and Associates Insurance. She was born and raised in Cupertino. And her dad is from India and her mom from Mexico. And I told her that hers was not an unusual combination. In the early 1900s, the U.S. government admitted male workers from the East, but not females. Minority men only married minority women. That's all they could do, or remain single. So I thought that was a bit of a history. There's a lot of that kind of a mix. For example, Ray Castañeda is Mexican and Sikh, and one of the most popular radio stations in San Jose was owned by a guy named Rodriguez. Well, it was Rodriguez Sidhu. His last name was Rodriguez, but his mother's name was Sidhu, S-I-D-H-U. Up in Chico, up in that area, there's a lot of Hindu Mexicans up there, and there's a lot down in the Coachella Valley. Well, enough of that history for all you guys. I wanted to also welcome our buddy Dave Henderson. Dave is from Philadelphia. He went to Penn State. He worked in electronics out here for about 11 years, but then he married Carl Silker's sister. So now he helps manage the family properties around Good Samaritan Hospital. Dave is going to give us the inspirational thought of the day. And I'm hoping that Dave is with us a little early because we've got a lot of area to cover. So Dave, are you with us?
I am.
Hit it.
Well, my inspiration today is really around the whole subject of people and significance, thank you, and time. So I'm going to wrap this up very quickly. But it starts 25 years ago. I'm part of a group of people trying to figure out what to do when Good Samaritan Hospital was sold to Columbia. We have $54 million. We end up meeting, there's 25 of us in this room for over a year's time. And there are different people in that room that have significance in the way they participated, what they did. And my takeaway on it was that we ended up being significant from the standpoint that it would eventually become the Health Trust. And the Health Trust is now 25 years later, still going strong. But what stayed with me were the people who participated in the program. And you think you've said thank you, but you really haven't said thank you because you end up moving on to something else. And I ended up moving on to something else. And then 11 years later, I would join Rotary and I would see the same person in Rotary. And I would think to myself, that guy is still serving and he has not given up. And it just really stayed with me because significance around people is not something that we maybe celebrate as often. And it just stayed with me that I thought I'd never really have said thank you for all that he has done. And roll the clock forward, another 11 years. And I'm now supposed to participate in today's inspirational time. And I thought to myself, for all that he has done, and I've never said anything, this is maybe my time. So Fernando, I look at you as my inspiration. And I say that because I've been in Rotary for 11 years. I knew you before Rotary because of the community task force. And I just wanted to say thank you. And for those of you and those of us who have not said thank you to people like you who have influenced our lives over the years, this is a good time to do it. So I don't mean to embarrass you, but I've thought of you more times than you would know, never said a word to you about it, but this is my thank you. And I so appreciate what you've done in my life.
Is to help for me to help make some decisions as to guide the expenditures for the sale of that property. And you now have the Good Samaritan Hospital, and you've been working there with the Silker family and the Lester family to continue to mold that part of our valley. Thank you for that very nice gesture. Thank you very much. Let's see. I'm going to move along because we do have some other matters that are up here. One of them is that the following individuals have completed their year as novice Rotarians. They've earned blue badges. I apologize to them. And so I'll name them all. Colleen Riley, she was born and raised in San Jose, unusual, yeah. She went to LMU, Loyola Marymount University, in 91. And she works with CBRE Group. That's Coldwell Banker, Richard Ellis, a commercial real estate services and investment firm. And she manages properties for owners and helped manage the building of the Shark Tank, for example. Her sponsor was Elaine Sullivan. Thank you, Elaine, and welcome to Colleen. Kathy Galusha, she was born in San Diego. She's one of 8 siblings. She went to San Jose State, another Spartan, thank you. Managing corporate lending group. She's been with Bridge Bank now for 14 years. Her sponsor was Larry Stone. Did I hear? Larry Stone, yes. Number 3, Calvin Keene, born in the Bay Area. A Rotarian, he found out when he joined the club, was his Aunt Stephanie Kavanaugh. Nicholas Adams and his sponsor, Josh Burrows, were Bellarmine classmates. Go Bells. He's with Transamerica Financial Advisors. Next is Sal Sanfilippo. Yeah, he was born in San Mateo, but was raised in Petaluma, where he still lives. He commutes to San Jose to work for Garden City Sanitation. He's been in that field for 35 years, and his sponsor was Tracy Adams. Thank you, Tracy, for bringing Sal into our club. Next, and finally, is Sandra Madrigal. She was born and raised here in San Jose. I'm still amazed how many people are local. She was a farm worker as a child, and she graduated from UC Santa Cruz. And for 25 years, she's worked with nonprofits. And she in here, Miss Executive Director. She's been mentoring executives for all these years, 25 years. So if you need it, give Sandra a call. Her sponsor was Judge Jim Towery. Judge Jim Towery and I were partners back when we were both lawyers at the law firm. So that's it for the blue badges. Welcome, and you can give back your red badges, and we recycle them. And we'll give you in exchange a blue one when the time comes. And I hope that's soon. Now, we've got on the line all the way from Florida is Dr. Karen Philbrick. She's a psychologist, and she's CEO with the Mineta Transportation Institute. She took over from Rod Diridon, doing a hell of a job. She and Lindley Zink are co-chairs of the membership committee, which is chaired by Jerry Greer. They've been doing a very good job. Dr. Philbrick will phone us in with her update from Florida. She didn't have, or at least she said she didn't have adequate Wi-Fi connection, so it may be by telephone. Dr. Philbrick, are you with us? The benighted state of Florida. Who knows? There she is. Yes, hi, Dr. Philbrick. Just gave you a glowing introduction. Are you with us? Come in, Dr. Philbrick. I saw that she tried to get in, but she's struggling mightily. Are you with us, Dr. Philbrick? It looks like we may not have her. Maybe we can go. No? Hello?
Hello, Karen.
Come in, Karen, come in.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey.
Want to try again?
No, it's
Oh, well, listen, sometimes these high-tech equipment that we
I'm
have.
here.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Friends, I'd like to apologize. There's a tropical storm in Florida, and it is kicking out the internet. So thank you for bearing with me while I connected. It's a pleasure to actually be able to provide an update to you on the membership committee today. Because as we all know, Rotary develops character and brings out the best of the human spirit. It teaches people ethics, humanity, cultural awareness, and the desire to serve. And it's a gift that each of us can give to others. I think we can all agree that membership growth is the engine that powers the vehicle of our club, and it requires both recruitment and retention efforts. I think we've seen from the years that we've all enjoyed time together that new members bring important benefits to the club, including diversity, fresh ideas, new energy, but we need our existing members, each and every one of you who are so crucial to sustaining our club's membership. So although the membership committee leads the club's recruiting efforts, recruiting new members is the responsibility of each and every one of us. So please reach out to friends, family, business associates, community members, anybody you can think of, and share this gift and ask them to join. A bit about the membership committee. We serve a 3-year term by invitation from the president, and we're currently 26 members strong. We meet on a Tuesday of every month at 7:30 a.m. That's the first Tuesday. And so dedicated are the members that we always have over 80% participation. And we prioritize retention efforts and help to ensure that members are informed, involved, and recognized for their contributions. So some may just think that the membership committee vets and recommends new members to the board of directors. We do that very importantly, but we really work to engage new members as well. So for example, committee members Catherine Cook and Karen Fox implemented a mentorship program to help ensure that new members feel welcomed and informed about the culture of the Rotary Club. They encourage mentees to explore potential committees to join, assist in identifying those that align with their interests and schedule, really helping people with as much support as they might need so they feel welcome and that they really belong to our club. This is an innovative program, and I would like to thank Catherine and Karen for their hard work, as well as all those mentor volunteers. And Fernando, I'm watching the clock. I'm almost done. One more exciting thing that we're working on is the Rotary Young Professionals Subcommittee led by Tony Guin. Networking opportunities with other local young professional groups. Prior to COVID, he often led weekend and after-hour events to make sure we could engage people who potentially could not attend the Wednesday meetings in person on a regular basis. We'll look forward to continuing this fine work when some of our restrictions are lifted. And so while we are actively engaging prospective new members, I would like to remind each and every one of you that the future of Rotary is in our hands. So please, please share the gift of Rotary, invite a friend, invite a family member, or a coworker. And thank you, President Fernando. It's a real privilege to be able to talk with all of you.
Well, thank you for that wonderful report, Karen, and best of luck there in the storm. I'm sorry to hear that that's possibly something you have to face today. You ought to come back here. We only have fires here.
Traded one disaster for another.
Yeah.
Thank
Next, we've
you.
got Gay Crawford. Gay is the founder of Cancer Care Point. She'll run our Find Opportunities event. And just like Rotary opens opportunities for those who need our help and for those and helps us lead more meaningful lives, Your contributions will open opportunities. Gay will monitor the chat box right now in case some of you are moved after you hear others to want to also contribute today. Just let Gay know, and when called, take 45 seconds to say what you're celebrating at $100 the bell ring, and we'll hear for the first one. First one would be Ed Correa. He's with Sagasent. He joined the club in 2011. Ed, what do you got you're celebrating?
Well, I'm celebrating one of the biggest contests in the IT world, or the technology world, is the MSP 501. It's a global contest where they attempt to recognize the top 501 managed service providers in the planet. And it's a brutal contest. Sagasent was amongst the 501 in 2020. And actually, the bigger thing is that makes 7 years out of the 10 years that this contest is run that we've been included or ranked in the list. So pretty exciting to have happen.
Great, that's terrific. Wow. And you're just a few people.
We're just 11 people.
Wow, that's terrific. So how happy are you? How many bell rings do you want to do?
As Lily Tomlin used to say, one ringy dingy, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we've got Mary Beth Riley. Mary Beth joined the club in 2012. She's the principal at Notre Dame High School for Girls. Mary Beth, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hi, Fernando. Thank
Hi.
you.
You bet.
I do want to ring the bell and celebrate that on August 18th, the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment and women's access to vote. Notre Dame High School dedicated its newest classroom building on the corner of 2nd and Reed Street, a 3-story classroom building that will prepare students for the future. And we're super excited about it. It'll be opening within the next couple of weeks. All we need are students. We just need some students back on campus and everything will be perfect, but we do want to celebrate this iconic new structure. I hope you all drive by and get a chance to look at it. I'd like to ring the bell about 1,000,000 times, Fernando, but you know, budgets. Could you ring it once for me?
I sure can. When was Notre Dame High School established?
Yeah, so we were founded in San Jose in 1851. We're the oldest private high school for young women in the Western United States. And
Wow, that's terrific.
proud to be an ongoing partner with the city of San Jose.
Well, I know a little bit about Notre Dame because we used to try to date the girls there when I was in high school, San Jose High, but their parents were more strict than mine were. All right, so one bell. Thank you very much. Howard Loomis, he's with Squire Milner, or used to be. What's going on with you? You joined the club in 2002.
Yes, have 2 rings. 2 things. First, my vivacious wife, Karen, and I celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary on Sunday.
Wow, way to go.
So that's number 1. And number 2, our firm, Squire Milner, is combining with an international firm, Baker Tilly, in November. So another big milestone.
Now, Baker Tilly is an international accounting firm, correct?
Yes, it is. Will be the 10th largest in the world.
Wow, that's terrific. 2 bells. I don't know if you can hear those things. It's the best I can do. The regular bells are back at the Summit Center. And last but not least is Kathleen Thomas, who joined the club in 2017. This dynamo is a bilingual vocational rehab counselor at VIA Services. What do you got to be proud of, Kathleen?
Gracias, Presidente. I am extremely proud of my daughter, Claire, who during and despite COVID, obtained her master's degree and her national credential in school psychology and began her first job over in New Haven School District in the East Bay. So I'm going to do 2 rings, one for all her accomplishments and the second one for having her off the payroll.
Very good. Thank you very much. Congratulations to Claire, as well as congratulations to you to take her off the payroll. So, Gay, do we have any others?
Yes, thank you, President Fernando. So some pretty exciting news from Carl Silker,
Yeah.
who said he would like to ring the bell, would you believe, 5 times. So
Wow.
Carl, if you unmute yourself, I'll be Nicholas Adams and run around the room and say, Carl, tell us your announcement.
Well, thank you, Gay, and thank you, Fernando.
Carl.
Our youngest daughter, Meredith, had a baby on August 4th, a beautiful little girl who was, well, 8 pounds, 15 ounces, so she wasn't quite so little. But anyway, we're very happy with the birth went very well, and the baby's happy and healthy, and we even get to see her from time to time despite all this masking and COVID business going on.
You could have said almost 9 pounds.
Yeah, that would have been too easy.
All right, so five rings?
Sure, that's fine with me.
Great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, thank you, Carl. That's terrific.
That almost
Okay.
killed the bell, but Kathleen Philbrick also has a nice announcement for a
Okay.
ring.
Karen, come in. Karen, you got something there
Oh,
for us?
Karen Philbrick.
Yeah.
Here, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I actually just want to ring the bell for all of you. Actually, I'm feeling a little emotional, but it's just been really great to remain engaged with each of you, even in this new environment and connecting through Zoom. But I will say that I still feel so incredibly supported. And I want to thank each and every one of you for walking this path with me. It's been a privilege to be a Rotarian for 11 years. And I'd like to ring the bell once, actually 1,000 times, but it will be once today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Karen. Thank you very much. Here it goes.
Hey, Fernando, do we have time for David Cohen? And then I have a comment.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
David, are you there?
Yeah, I wanted to take this fine opportunity to brag a little bit about my kids. My son started his freshman year in an unconventional way at Bellarmine, so did want to ring the bell for him and share that bell ring with my daughter who's starting her senior year at Presentation, and didn't get a chance last spring to congratulate her for leading as the starting guard for the basketball team there, leading them to the CCS title in the spring. So those two, I will share a bell ring for my kids.
Thank you, David. There you go. That's the other David Cohen, right?
Yeah. So Fernando, can you find yourself?
Can I?
Yeah.
Sure can.
Well, you mentioned Good Samaritan Hospital when you were talking about Dave Henderson, and of course it's Samaritan Medical Center that he is involved in. I mean, so ding for you.
No, you've used the word fine incorrectly, and for that, I cannot,
right.
I cannot go along with you, because until you learn that it's a fine opportunity, I remain unscathed.
You are right. We have learned what a fine announcement is. Thank you all for participating.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad. I have to go into the president's time, and I've got just a few minutes here, 3 minutes. No breakout rooms this week. If you want to continue having them, or if you want to have a specific topic, let us know. Or if you would like to if you prefer to just hang around after our formal meetings are over to chat with your fellow Rotarians, we can do that up to 20 minutes. Next, we've got Grab and Go Free Barbecue by Bert George and the Executive Chefs. Look for the registration form in your email. I think it's going out tomorrow. Remember, you have to register so we know how much food to prepare. No kids, no guests, only Rotarians and their significant others, please. And finally, Rotary International President Holger Kanak announced in the Rotarian magazine this year in July that 47 countries of the African region just been certified as wild polio-free, poliovirus-free, wild poliovirus-free. That's amazing. Rotary members across Africa and around the world have worked together to raise funds, immunize children, advocate with local and national leaders, and raise awareness about the importance of vaccination. This decades-long effort has involved millions of health workers traveling by foot, boat, bike, and bus, innovative strategies to vaccinate children amid conflicts, insecurity, and a huge disease surveillance network to test cases of paralysis and check sewage for this virus. So congratulations to all of us and members of Rotary that have helped make this happen. So when our program speaker is presenting, please submit only questions in the chat box for Steve to answer. So we got Steve Ellenberg. He's joined in 2005, attorney with Hopkins and Carly, immediate past president of the program committee. Steve, you with us? Come in, Steve.
President Fernando, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so happy Women's Equality Day, and I have a trivia question for everybody that you can also plug into chat, which is August of 2020 marked a unique and hopefully more frequent event. And if you can figure out what happened in August of 2020, just put it in chat. It was a first for San Jose Rotary. Now I'll get to my introduction. It's that time of every 2 years as the election season is starting to come into full throttle. Campaigns are going to be very different this year. For one, Steve Ellenberg isn't going to be knocking on your door. For all the others, we are privileged to have our guest speaker, Mary Hughes, to help us out. Mary is a political strategist and co-founder of Hughes and Company. She has advised candidates for president, Congress, state, and legislative office. Her work has contributed to several historic firsts for women, including the first woman to lead her party in Congress and the first woman superintendent of California schools. Mary has written extensively on American politics with articles that have appeared in the Los Angeles Times, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the Huffington Post. Mary Hughes is the founder of Close the Gap California, a campaign to recruit progressive women to run for the California legislature, and the 2012 Project, a nonpartisan effort to recruit private sector women to run for public office. As a result of Mary's great efforts to bring gender equality to the California legislature, Close the Gap has recruited 9 of the 38 women currently serving and taken women's representation in the legislature from 22% to 32%, and hopefully more in just a few years. Not surprisingly, Mary has been recognized by many organizations for her work. She's been named Women of the Year by Emerge California, and the Women's E-News honored her as one of the 21 leaders for the 21st century. I'm pleased to welcome Mary Hughes to the greatest Rotary Club in the world.
Come in, Mary. Can you hear us?
Unmute.
Hello. And thank you so much, Steve, for that lovely introduction. And it's a joy to be with you all. I want to echo what your member Karen said. You have and you are known for an extraordinary community of citizen leaders. And I have long admired you. So it is truly an honor to be with you this afternoon. I want to thank Steve and Marie and John for their willingness to be helpful and supportive. I originally was asked to speak to you back in January. And at that moment, when the books were open and all dates were available, I said, Steve, I want to speak on Women's Equality Day. I have so much to say about women in politics. And as time went on and it was time to say what I would like to name my talk, I realized that the thing I really wanted to talk with you about is the extraordinary circumstance we're in, with a presidential election coinciding with all of the things that have happened to all of us together over the last 6 months. But before I launch into that, I can't resist one word about Women's Equality Day. We are commemorating the passage of the 19th Amendment, which enabled those of us on this call to vote as full citizens of the United States. And that is a wonderful point of pride, and lots of women's organizations are celebrating it. But the reason I wanted to take a moment to talk about it was only this. It represents for all of us yet one more sign that Americans are more than willing to perfect this union for all of us. And that includes bringing more and more people to the table until all of us are seated. So delighted that women were invited to vote. Want to make a big deal of that, but only because it makes the union stronger, it makes the country more vibrant, and it makes our democracy more true. So thanks for that small mention. What I hope to spend the next 12, 15 minutes on, I will go quickly because I really want to have a discussion with you all, is campaigning in the time of COVID. And I guess I start by telling you that what I want to do today is talk about what it means to be in the time of COVID and a political environment simultaneously. What that effect is on candidates and campaigns, how they will adapt to it. And then finally, what does it portend for outcomes of elections? So we'll go lickety split and then we'll get to discuss it, which I look forward to. So this is the plague election. And in the plague election, you need to think about the last 5 months in its full context. We were first visited with a health crisis, and the health crisis caused us to change behavior, and it had the ripple effect of inviting the economy. In response, there was dislocation, contraction, and a great deal of unknown ahead. At the time of the dislocation and at one of the spikes of the virus, George Floyd was killed, and we began to enter a period of racial reckoning, which goes on to this day with yesterday's shooting or the day before in Minnesota. More recently, as we have worked our way through, not out of these things, we are definitely in them, but as we work our way through them, we have enjoyed something that certainly hasn't happened in my lifetime, which was a sort of inside heist of a great American institution, the post office, and the silent uproar that soon became hearable, and the real anger that people felt about having that sneaked away from them. And now the fires in our part of the country. In other part of the country, in Louisiana, on the Gulf Coast, there are hurricanes. There was horrible weather, devastating weather for farmers in Iowa just 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the country is more than battered, more than battered. And this is the context in which we will hold this presidential election and for all down ballot races. So what's the effect on the voter of all these things that I've talked about? Well, it's very hard to tell prospectively how voters will feel and what impact what they feel will have on the election or a particular election. But here's what we do know. There have been tests all along that have shown us that our optimism about our futures and the country's future have taken a nosedive. No surprise there. We know that we're doing 60% more time in front of these screens than we would otherwise, and that makes us feel lonely. And we all know that, and we're all grateful that we can see each other, but it's not a substitute for the hug or the joy of actually being with each other. So we miss that. We also know that we report regularly that we are more often sad, angry, anxious, and we have some fear of the future. So the one constant we voters have right now in this context is uncertainty. We have no idea what's ahead, but we certainly know we don't want more of what we've got. And that's what we just don't know. Another place I went to look to try to figure out, okay, what are we going to do as voters? How will our behavior be different? I went to see how our behavior has changed as consumers. And McKinsey has been watching this very closely for throughout the pandemic. And what they've observed is we shop for value. We only shop for essentials. We have pulled back from the joy of the impulse purchase. We're very careful. We're much more disciplined. We're doing it all digital. We are not as loyal to our favorite brands as we used to be. And of course, putting that in a political context interested me greatly. But we are not as loyal. And the reason we're not is because we're looking for that value, that essential. We also are inclined to shop with people who have demonstrated that they know our circumstance. So if you are a marketer, you want to tell us that the product is packaged safely, that it has been shipped and handled carefully and cleanly, and we have confidence in that product. So some brand loyalties will hold and some will give way to people who can make a better case to us that that is what they're selling. Healthy caring is what they call it, and it's begun to creep out into all other aspects of our life, healthy caring. It's interesting to me that 70% of us are happy to be at home and we don't want to go out until we know that the virus is over. It was a higher percentage than I expected, but a very interesting number. So here's what I want to propose to you, that these qualities, concerns, anxieties of ours, and the behaviors that we've been able to measure so far in the 6 months of this tell me about campaigning. It tells me that we will hear candidates and their campaigns communicate in a different tone. Their messages will be adjusted to fit these circumstances in this context, and they will use methods that are very different from the ones those of us who are longtime campaigners are used to. So maybe no surprise there. But what got me thinking about this in terms of the tone in which political communication will take place is this advertisement, which is one clean white page with a very spare bit of text, which I'll read you. This is from the July issue of Vogue magazine, and I read, "We'd like to take this moment to pause and offer appreciation for our customers, employees, families, and friends. Most of all, our gratitude for the strength and resilience of those in our communities working tirelessly on the front lines to care for people in need. Thank you." And it's signed Love Nordstrom. Now that is a very different message than don't miss the August sale. And it's a message that I'm guessing was exceedingly thoroughly researched. And it tells me 3 things about what we voters and we consumers would like to hear. And that is reassurance, steadiness, compassion. We are looking for trustworthiness in everyone we deal with because the times are so unsteady. You noticed this last week if you took a piece at the Democratic Convention. There was a theme throughout. It was civility and humility. There were no grand or grandiose measures. Probably the most evocative of those were the fireworks if you stayed to the bitter end. But for the most part, it was a quiet, human scale conversation about our country and our nominee. It was in keeping with what both Nordstrom conveyed and what we know we can hear. There's a lot going on out there, but there's only so much we can take in. And so the tone of a campaign and the tone of candidates will adjust or not at their peril, but this is the tone that we seem to be able to hear as voters right now. In terms of messaging, this context has only underscored something we are totally hungry for, and that is the facts, ma'am, just the facts. We really want to know the source, the expertise of the person offering these facts, and how we can use them. Facts matter. Clear and simple. Again, I offer to you what was undoubtedly extremely well researched, clear and simple. Don't need to say a lot, do need to have content. That content needs to be sourced, it needs to be reliable. We also know that in messaging, we need to talk about common purpose. One of the things that the loneliness of the Zoom reminds us is that we are not together, and therefore our need for community and to act in community for the common good is underscored. It is interesting to me that in polls that are taken year after year after year, we know that more people say they want to vote this year than ever in modern testing. 85% of people say they are eager to vote. And that's up 10% from 2016 in what we thought was a very compelling election. So we know people are excited. They want to hear the messages. They know what tone they're looking for. So how will campaigns operationalize all this? I think that you'll see that the old, where all of us were stuffing and stamping and phoning and canvassing and dropping literature, all out the window. Not doing any of that this year. None of that is healthy for us. But what we will try to adapt to is a little bit of this. We'll be organizing ourselves on Zoom. We'll be on teletown halls. We'll be in chat rooms, and we'll be organizing pods of volunteers. So if you think about each of our old time Rolodexes, new time address books online, we'll be asked by candidates to dive into those and to use our good names with family, friends, coworkers, and others in ways that we haven't before, emailing them, organizing them for online house parties. But whatever we do, it's going to be in this medium for the most part. And therefore, your signature, meaning your personal outreach, is about 10 times the value as it always has been. And it has always been the most valuable thing you can offer a candidate you support. But they're going to ask you to use that to create ripples upon ripples to carry their message. So you're going to see this team and community spirit highlighted. You're going to hear from a lot of campaigns that are calling themselves Team Sam, Team Anna, Team Zoe. There is this more effort to bring us together and put that virtual arm around all of us and call us a community campaign, a campaign of a family of sorts, because that's what we are responding to. You're going to see campaigns use invitations to learn, bring you experts to discuss. You are going to hear from professionals. You've seen this a lot from your elected officials already under the guise of information about COVID, information about the fires. It is the way, in this context, you know that the information is credible, and when real experts come to you with firsthand information or knowledge. You're going to see that now from candidates and campaigns as an offering, but you're also going to see them provide, campaigns and candidates provide you opportunities to be the message of the campaign. And that can be in the form of giving blood, or passing out food boxes at the food bank, or being on the front lines as a volunteer backing up some firefighters. So you're going to see campaigns actually demonstrate how they hope they will be leaders with compassion and in service. And I think that that's extremely important because it's something we can all relate to, and I think something we all want to be part of. So I'm hopeful that those are the lessons in terms of tone and message and organization that you will see from campaigns. What does this mean for the outcome of races? I will tell you that candidate qualities will be more important than issue positions. And by this, I don't mean that people on the far left with differences of opinions and people on the far right are going to all be chums together. What I do mean is that recent polling showed the top 3 qualities people want in their president are strength, compassion, and the willingness to listen to experts. You can imagine how each of the 2 nominees fared on those 3 qualities, but the qualities of the person were the thing voters gravitated toward as the deciding measure. You're going to see in down ballot races that for the most part, incumbents will have an advantage. In this environment with so much noise and chaos and upset, it is very difficult for new people to get traction. Creative ones will, dogged ones will, be assured, but for the most part, there is an advantage to the incumbent who is doing this. If you are doing your job well, and you have helped the people in need at every one of those disaster points, the virus, the economic downturn, during the racial inequality and upset that followed. If in the Postal Service heist, you stood up and said, hey, wait a minute. And if in the fires, you were there to help people figure out how to get their lives back on track, that will carry the day with voters. They saw you, they elected you because they believed you could do that, and now they've seen you do it recently. Hugely valuable, hugely valuable. Unfortunately for challengers, they don't have the same platform and the same opportunity in that moment to perform as someone in office. So an advantage there to incumbents. Voters are highly skeptical of anything that is exaggerated or over the top. As I mentioned, the tone is civil, it's clear, it's quiet, it's compassionate, and it's respectful and factual. So people who are making giant claims about, I will change this part of the world, or we will get all of these things solved, none of that is believable. Candidates should stay away. I suspect very few candidates will fall in the trap of hyperbole this cycle, but you can't be too sure. It's always appealing. Networking from home will be the new volunteering. People who are good networkers through all of the connections they've made, whether they have their own databases at home, whether they've got networks online that they work with, whether they can use circles that they belong to for a variety of civic and good causes to bring issues to the fore, bring candidates to the fore. Those are your golden volunteers in this campaign. And finally, I want to say, never underestimate the force multiplier of joy. One of the things that we are all short on in the last 6 months is the joyfulness of being with each other, laughing together, finding common cause, creating something good, being out and about and lifting other people up with a kind word or a compliment. We are all short on all of that. So to the extent that campaigns can create these pods of volunteers who are networking feverishly among their own groups, but connecting on a short weekly basis with each other to compare notes, to support each other, to share the common endeavor, that is a joyful thing that many people have been without. So I think more volunteers who are focused and ready to get to work in a group in ways that we haven't been able to for the last 6 months is something people miss and something they are more willing to do than we have been. If you can remember back before COVID, if I ask you, how are you? You might have said, I'm well, thank you. But more often than not, people said to me, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. And that busyness has subsided, and there's a desire to engage. And this election will allow people to engage. So I'm going to stop there and thank you. And I hope I've given you something to chew over and that's useful in the weeks ahead. And I'm happy to take your questions.
So Mary, thank you so much. And really great insight, not only into elections, but into our humanity and how we're doing. I really appreciate that. Let me try and get through a few. There've been a number of questions, and let me try and get through some topics. So front of mind for a number of people is how the campaigns are going to look, and starting with the conventions. And one question was, does there appear to be dramatically more deception at the conventions this year? And what impact, whether there has or hasn't, what impact do you think the conventions are going to have on voters heading towards the election?
So I confess, as a partisan, I watched much more last week than I am watching this week. So my answer will not be even-handed. So as to the first part of the question, deception, I know more what has been reported than I know what I observed myself. And the posture of an incumbent president is to celebrate the good that's been done and paint a picture of the more good that will be done. So I did watch a good portion of the first night of the Republican convention, and I did think that the presentation of the management of the virus was a tad fictionalized. So I'll leave that there, because they're way different. The views of how the virus has been handled will be agree to disagree. I will point you to two sources that I do rely on and think are reliable. One is the Washington Post fact checkers, who have been at it for a very long time. They seem to think that it was extraordinarily deceptive. There was some deception last week. I think that what I remember was they thought there was multiples more deception this week. So that was for that part. And then Steve, what was the second part of the question?
The impact of the conventions on the ultimate outcome.
Conventions rarely have long-lasting impact. So if we were in a normal time, these conventions are mostly for the faithful. They are like pep rallies before a football game. They are in part to convey a message, but mostly they are a tool for organizing and for energizing and for sending people out to do battle for their teams. So obviously that is restrained and constrained and will have less effect, I think, than normal. I think that it is interesting to see how each of the parties chose to use their constrained circumstances to convey through the box what they want to do and how they want to do it and who they are. So they've both been handed the same constraints, and they've dealt with them pretty differently, I think, from what I can tell. So I don't think that they will have great impact, except for this. Despite the fact that Vice President Biden was the vice president for 8 years, I think a lot of people were confused about him. They knew him as a sidekick. They did not know him as a lead horse. And they do now. many do, and many saw clips. I think that was clarifying and beneficial. The polling bump shows that there is, the horse race didn't change in the post-convention polling. They run about neck and neck, but his personal approval rating is up 5 points or more. And so it showed that people appreciated who he was. And I would argue from my talk that they also appreciated the way he presented himself.
Okay, so thank you. The next area was kind of the intersection between COVID and mail ballots, and what impact do you think will there be more mail-in balloting? Will COVID and people's worries about it create more? Will that have an impact on the number of people that vote? And what effect will that have on voter participation?
We've got 2 minutes.
So I think a couple of things. First, early. So we're going to have Postal Service. It appears after the bill was passed and the hearings were held that the level of service that we have to today will hold. The level of service we have today is already degraded in terms of the speed and reliability. So that's worrisome. So some communities, Santa Clara County is wonderful in this regard. We will go more heavily, I think, on taking ballots to drop-off centers and to drop-off boxes where they're directly collected and taken to the registrar. So I think that will be a change in behavior. People will opt more for the drop boxes and the centers because the actual physical handing in matters. I do think if we preach early, those ballots will get out and back in quicker. And we will have a better count on election night, which everyone wants, and not to have to wait 2 weeks to find out the ending. I do think that there will be a lot of oversight from both parties on the process of voting, the process of counting and reporting. And so this will be the most process-oriented election we've had in a long time, both because of the scare with the post office and because of COVID. My notion is that COVID has only been a motivator, not a disincentive for people to vote. This is a public health crisis. We count on our government to manage these. People have not had much way to express their feelings about this, but they will with their ballot, and they are going to vote.
Thank you so much, Mary Hughes. That's very interesting to bring your experience and your knowledge to the fore here to kind of help us along. By the way, we, instead of paying, or as you know, we don't pay our speakers, but we do, we've got a contract with our city forest, which is a nonprofit that will plant 46 shade trees in East San Jose to help with the heat islands, to help with the environment, to improve their neighborhoods. And that's our way of thanking you and all our program speakers that come to our Rotary Club to share their knowledge and experience with us. We're turning around and helping our community in this way. I'll be sending you a thank you note to memorialize that, but I just want to thank you for giving us your insight. Please say hello to Supervisor Joe for us. And let's see, next week's speaker is Lenny Mendonça. He's speaking on economics. He's a Stanford grad, School of Business. He's a Director Emeritus from Washington, D.C. and San Francisco on the offices of McKinsey & Company, which was quoted by Mary Hughes. It's a consulting firm. Here's a fun fact for you to keep in mind. He owns Half Moon Bay Brewing Company and Mavericks Beer Company. So remember to let us know your preferences and regarding the breakout rooms, and register for the international conference in Taiwan next June. That's like my favorite governor used to say, immigrant governor. Hasta la vista, Rotarians. The Zoom meeting Stands adjourned.